First, I welcome all of you to accept the invitation and accept the invitation from Krishi Manthan IMA for this panel discussion. As we all are aware of the current issue around farm bill reforms, we at IMA through Krishi Manthan have organized a panel discussion on this critical issue that has captured global attention. We tried to invite prominent leaders from different backgrounds of the relevant sector in an effort to include all the stakeholders' viewpoint. We are immensely grateful for all the panelists for this opportunity. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator of today's panel discussion, Mr. Raj Agarwal. Mr. Raj is a founder and chief consulting officer of Ray Consulting. He is the evaluator and mentor of CII's Food and Agribusiness Accelerator at IIM Ahmedabad. He has more than 26 years of leadership and business operating experience of agri-input sector in renowned organization like Tata Chemicals and PI Industries in NFCL. He has achieved business excellence by partnering with stakeholders of head of new product development and quality assurance. Now I'll introduce our esteemed panelists one by one. I'll start with Mr. Ram Kundiana. He is a distinguished alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad from batch 1977 to 79. He has been managing director of several companies in his illustrious career, such as Advanta, Emergent Genetic India, Cyanamide Agro. He is a senior member of management team of agrochemicals division of Wixt India. He is also a chairman of CropLife India and director of Association of Seed Industry. Next is Mr. Amit Mundawala, a man who aims to revolutionize our Indian agriculture sector. He co-founded our well-known online agri-commodity platform, AgriBazaar. It's a boon for the Indian farmers because it addresses the pain point like timely availability of advisory inputs, price discovery, crop traceability, and quality assurance. He has also co-founded and also co-executive director of post-harvest giant Star Agri Warehousing and Collateral Management Limited. Our next panelist, Mr. Jhakar, has done many hats. He is presently the chairman of Bharat Krishak Samaj, and it's one of India's leading non-partisan, non-profit farmer organization established in 1955. He's a vice chair of Sustainable Consumption UN Food System Summit. He also aims to advocate for farmers' prosperity and healthy and sustainable inclusive food system.
Get some water.
Our next panelist, Mr. Chengal Reddy. He's the man behind remarkable professional farmers organization consortium of Indian Farmer Association, CIFA. It's a non-political, democratically functional association. He is now active participants from different states of the country. He has been actively involved in helping farmers by taking major initiatives such as liberalization policies in agriculture sector and FDI in retail for the last 3 decades. So, after this introduction, now I would like our moderator, Mr. Raj Kumar Agrawal, to proceed with the process. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi, everybody. My co-panelists, I got an awesome, outstanding panel here. I know Mr. Ram Kondanya, Ajay Ji, Amit Mundawala, and Chengal Reddy Garu. Very interesting discussion. I'm sure it's going to happen. When I was approached by IIM team, and they said, Raj would request you to moderate this. And then thanks to Ankush and Manpreet who've been closely following it up with me, and we've been talking. During the discussion, I felt that most of the discussions that are happening are, if I may say, one-sided. Either the corporates are speaking, or the government is speaking, or the farmers are speaking. So I said, let's have a balanced view. And when we started discussions and we planned this, that situation was different. And frankly, trust me, I felt today on 26 December, probably farmers would have gone back to their cozy homes from this rough weather. They're all, sitting in Delhi. And it's inconvenience for many. Farmers, imagine in this chill, cold, they're all sitting in the open areas. And for the people, I was in Delhi couple of weeks ago, and I had to travel to Sonipat. It was so difficult for me to get out of Delhi and get into Delhi. So everybody is affected. But is that the road we are here to come with this loss? I'll just take you little history. I'm sure most of us know because it's so much in the news. But I would like to brief that what this loss, as per the what you call loss per se mean, and then we'll discuss with our esteemed panelists who have taken out their time on a weekend just after Christmas. And to begin with, let me, before I start this panel discussion, I wish all our panelists and attendees who are in huge numbers, thanks to the efforts of IIM team, a Merry Christmas and safe and healthy New Year 2021. Friends, the Indian Farm Reforms of 2020 refer to the agricultural bills passed by the Lok Sabha on 17th September and by Rajya Sabha on 20th September. The bills collectively seek to provide farmers with multiple marketing channels and provide a legal framework for farmers to enter into pre-arranged contracts, among other things. The President of India gave his assent for 3 bills on 27th September 2020. But now you see, protests against the acts picked up, particularly from parts of Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, and few other states been joining there. What are these 3 acts? I'll just read out. Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Production Facilitation Act, which says expands the scope of trade areas of farmers' produce from select areas to any place of production, collection, aggregation. It says allows electronic trading and e-commerce of scheduled farmers' produce. C, it says prohibits state governments from levying any market fee, cess or levy on farmers, traders, and electronic trading platforms for trade of farmers' produce conducted in an outside trade area. The second law says Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act. It says it provides a legal framework for farmers to enter into pre-arranged contracts with buyers, including mention of pricing. It defines a dispute resolution mechanism. And the third act says Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020, which says it removes foodstuffs such as cereals, pulses, potatoes, onion, edible oils from the list of essential commodities, removing stock holding limits on such items except under extraordinary conditions. Requires that imposition of any stock limit on agricultural produce be based on price rise. Friends, if you see, never in my memory has India in the recent past has seen so much tug of war between the farmers and the government of India. Why are we at crossroads? Why each one of us is unable to convince the other? Yesterday we saw Prime Minister, head of the country, personally talking to almost 9 crore farmers, explaining the law, about the laws. Why one feels the laws are good and other feels they may not be? Where will this lead to? Why outside India is taking so much interest? If you see, so many countries are giving their opinions or observations on this farm laws. I'm not sure if this will really affect the economy. For example, we have seen whenever a monsoon prediction happens, if the monsoon prediction is normal, the Sensex goes up. If the monsoon prediction is not so normal, Sensex comes down. But if you see in these situations, the Sensex is not getting affected. So that means, is economy not going to get affected with this farm loss? I'm not too sure. Let's find out. So to understand all these things, friends, I will talk to all my 4 panelists here. We have structured together, thanks to their inputs. We have been talking last few days, exchanging mails, communication to come to this beautiful discussion. I have finished my introduction. I will have 2 rounds of questions with my panelists, co-panelists. First round and then second round. I'm sure most of your questions, most of your doubts, most of you, what you have in mind would be answered in these discussions. But to benefit most of you, in case you have something which you feel need to be answered, we will take few questions to the panelists at the end of the session. So until then, have patience. And when we finish our rounds, we will request you to raise your hands and we'll pick some of you to talk to the respective panelists. So thank you, IIM, for bringing all of us on this single platform. Ajay ji, I would like to start with you, if you permit me. Let me, why are farmers insisting that the mandi systems will finish while, the government keeps repeating that mandi will be allowed to operate? Farmers fear that 3 Farm Acts will lead to unfair terms of trade. What is your take on this, Ajay ji?
Agrawal Saab, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much. And it is nice to be with a panel of people who will be more or less supporting the bill and being the only farmer on the panel. So I think what I say, I have more responsibility to explain this point of view. So to your question about the APMC Mandi, will it finish or not finish? The different points of view between the government and the farmers. What is an APMC Mandi? An APMC Mandi is a physical infrastructure where buyers and sellers will come to trade. But when 2 parallel systems are designed and operate, then buyers will prefer one kind of system to operate in. What do the new laws give, or what are the changes that new laws will get? So you look at this. So the first thing is that traders do not need to register when trading outside APMC Mandi. So there is no process of registration. No state regulations will operate on areas outside APMC Mandis. No transactions will be recorded. No data will be collected. No price discovery will happen. And there's such intelligent panelists here. I'm sure they will have something else to say on this. But I think it is absolutely essential for the government to have data to make informed choices, whether they would be of essential commodities, whether they would be of food security or nutrition security of this country. For import-export policies decisions, data must be generated. Now, this space that has been created outside APMC Mandis, let me repeat, there is no regulation, there is no registration of traders trading in farm produce, no transactions are being recorded, no data is being generated. Then you go further. In no democracy in the world does a situation come up where an individual of a country or even a foreigner living in that country does not have recourse to legal recourse to civil courts. So in this act, farmers cannot go to civil courts with the cases. The government, in its informed opinion, have said that in many cases, farmers will be able to go to SDM to resolve their disputes. So I don't know if other people stay in villages or they stay in census towns or small towns, but an SDM is overburdened with work. He's even inaccessible to elected representatives, let alone small farmers. And I think this is a very important point, that access to civil courts, access to redressal mechanisms is not right. And that is why I say when 2 mandis operate, when 2 marketing systems operate, one where regulation is there, registration is there, government will collect some fees, which could be for rural development, transactions will be recorded, data will be generated based on which ENAM can work, based on which government can take informed decisions. And the other is where it's Wild West. Nothing is applicable on anyone. Farmers can't file a case on corporate houses. Now, obviously, traders will not come to the APMC market. When traders do not come to the APMC market, APMC markets will slowly over 5-10 years wither away. If you look at Bihar, it's a proper example where there are no APMC markets, and look what has happened to the state. I want to just put the last point here. Mr. Ashok Gulatia, an eminent economist, agriculture economist, when asked on TV, why has Bihar failed? Because he was one of the proponents of saying was that Nitish, he said that the governance of the state was so bad that no industry went to Bihar to set up bases. So thank you. I'll just keep it here and then maybe we can come back to other points.
Yeah, I think beautifully. I mean, very good way to start this pitch today. I'll get back to you on this couple of questions. Now, since you mentioned about, I mean, Ashok Gulati, of course, I'm not referring to Ashok Gulati. In one of the newspaper editions, which was, in favor and against the favor, Mr. Arvind Panagriya has written, if you look at the past two chief economic advisors, that is Kaushik Basu and Raghuram Rajan, they had spoken in favor of these bills when they were chief economic advisors. But the same people now they say
Sir,
it may not be useful.
sir, Mr. Agrawal sir, you are the moderator, but as a panelist, let me correct you. Everybody wants reforms. Everybody wants APMC markets reformed. Everybody wants private mandis to come, but that does not mean these rules. This is what the academicians, especially people like Mr. Panagriya and all are doing. They are saying because you want reforms, because you want.
You're stuck. Yeah.
I think it's
Last 1 minute, we couldn't hear you. Can you repeat, Ms. Ajay?
I'm saying as a moderator, I request you to allow the panelists to give their views. If you interpret the laws as a moderator, then you're doing a wrong interpretation because you are saying you are repeating what all academicians and
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay.
thank you so much.
Yeah, great. Now I'll move on to Amit Mundawala. So Amit ji, see, if I put you a question, you've been in the trade of post-harvest commodity aggregation even before the farm bills came into existence. In your experience, in your opinion, what is your experience in relation to farmers' doubts and security along with income parameters like digital transaction, payment transfers, price realization, commissions, etc.? If you look at it, Ajay ji has brought something very interesting. The commission that is going to the agents is also used for the development. Now, with this platform, probably that is lost.
So commission paid to commission agent is not going for development. It is about the market fee, which he is saying. Market fee which state charge.
Yeah, market fee. Okay.
So commission is a separate income for the commission agents. So, right now, obviously, the way Ajay ji has mentioned, so I totally agree with him. There is slight, ambiguity on the arbitration part. So even we had a debate with several bureaucrats, and they have made it so open. I know they say that we want it to be very free flow between farmers and buyers and sellers rather. Farmer is the seller and buyer can be anybody who has a PAN card. So it's simple. See, because last 10 years, industry has been demanding from various state governments to eliminate the licensing. Like before this act, what was happening, if any processor wants to buy outside market yard or outside the APMC, they have to get a license. And that some states are giving central license and then some states are asking to take license mandi to mandi. So it was a very tedious job. So based on that, all this analysis, they have kept it so free flow. They are saying it should be a PAN card. That's all. Any individual or non-individual who is having a PAN card is entitled to purchase anywhere. So that is the most flexible part. And now we can say like that, if there could have been a mandate outside market premises, the transition should happen through any online portal like Enam is there, or maybe portals like AgriBazaar, or there are n number of other platforms are there, so that they can become a registry, or they can act as an arbitrator also between buyer and seller, and then the price discovery, like transparency about the prices, or maybe recording or database, everything is there then. So we also had put an argument on same line, but subsequently we also got that true admission that it is an initial phase. There is a provision of rule creation in the act itself. So they are saying wait and watch, let us evaluate what is happening, and based on the maybe a certain short to medium term timeline where they get all the essentials to be accommodated, then they may create a rule which will be again, qualifying all these bottlenecks which we are right now seeing. But totally, see, I'm also coming from a commission agent family. Historically, if you see me before Star Agri into early, between 98 to 2004, I had my personal experience from Mandi only. And since last 15 years, I am working very aggressively pan India for this post-harvest part. And for the last 4 years, we are working with AgriBazaar as a online portal. So this act is technically, blessing. I feel so. There may be controversy, there may be difference of opinion, but I'm very sure in contest, particularly for the farmers, I'm saying this is a pure blessing. There is a flexibility. Now, earlier, commodity was transacted only in the mandi. Now there is a flexibility. You can go inside mandi and outside mandi. So there is flexibility, won't harm anybody. So it is only the controversy of clubbing it with MSP. So this is creating a confusion. Otherwise, if I'm being given a flexibility of selling my produce anywhere where I want, so what it harms me as a farmer or as a seller? No, nothing. So it is only about dispute resolution that should be clarified. And there we are on the same page. And we also expect key if there is no proper arbitration. Now, act again, there is a multiple round of, they can say there is a like SDM is the first level, and then you can put an appeal, and then maybe second round, third round is there. But technically speaking, being like, so even the government is very aggressive on the IT part right now, which we are seeing very closely how they are working and all. So they are also in process of creating a pan-India farmer database. So that's calling like AgriStack. So things are very clear, and the government intention per se, what we are seeing closely, since we are connected to all the various departments and all. So I believe so. We are on a right direction, and you have to take step like, and this is certainly a very positive step for all of us. So which I believe.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, you see now, I think you mentioned about MSP earlier. Ajay spoke about the APMC Act. Now, from there, I would request Chengareddy Garu to kind of see, can we, how APMC can be involved in making the bills implemented? Like, see, Ajay probably found a good observation telling that agents would not be visiting mandis, and next few years probably mandis would, APMC may not be existing at all. So, Reddy Garu, what do you feel? Can APMC be part of this bills as evolution? Just mute Luna, Reddy Garu. Unmute chain, mic. Click on the mic below you on the left hand side. You find one mic icon with mute. Just click on that. No, there is one. You will find one mic icon on the.
Is it?
Yes.
Now. Okay.
Great.
Yeah, you see the whole problem of this agitation in Delhi that's going on for the last few months. We across the country, we don't understand what is that their problem is. Firstly, they were initially talking about MSP. We know that rice, wheat, and a few other things, there is a enormous MSP and all that. And government for quite some time has been announcing this MSP, and then mostly it's all limited to rice and wheat in a selected state. The question which we have wondering about the agitation is, what about the 90% produce that is not getting any MSP, or there is no processing, or there is a lot of other problems which we have been confronting for last 30 years after 1990 liberalization. See, one thing, of course, this market, these problems which are all being raised, I would say that we have same problem in 1990 when reforms came in industry service sector. There's a lot of opposition from unions, labor, etc., and all that. Now, the question that I would place before everybody is, when a parliament makes an act, I mean, some people definitely may have their own very objections, extremely serious objections and genuine objections, but they just can't ask parliament to withdraw those bills. I mean, if I were to say sitting here in Hyderabad, you do tell government of India, Mr. Modi, you withdraw this, withdraw that, and make about 10,000 people sit across the country and tell people what to do, what not to do, the executive, judiciary, and parliament. I mean, it doesn't look reasonable. Today, the whole situation that's happening in Delhi, for us, it looks very absurd. I don't know why the government of India is dilly-dallying with this. I mean, the problem faced by Delhi people, I mean, that is their personal problem. And government of India has made an act, some acts, whatever it is. And then somebody comes there, sits there, and then they say it is genuine. If it is genuine, my question to those people agitating him is, first of all, how many of you are there? You say there are 30, 40 organizations. Well, good enough. You may be from Punjab, Haryana. I know many of them. I mean, they are all very sincere, honest people. And you have real concern, I appreciate. You may have very legal, otherwise ethical, moral, this thing. But how could you ask Parliament to withdraw acts? I mean, it looks very, very illogical. I would, I mean, not see, I would very seriously say, we know in this country, we have for 40, 50 years, Naxalism. Naxalites still fighting everywhere in the country. They don't believe in your constitution. They said, get rid of damn constitution and go away. I mean, do you think we can do that? Yesterday, somebody in these organizations were telling, they don't believe Supreme Court. Then okay, get rid of Supreme Court, get rid of Parliament, get rid of executive.
Yeah.
Then what is that what are you suggesting? What is it you want?
That's what, Reddy Garu, see,
Yeah.
Reddy Garu, what we're looking is, suppose if the laws have to be implemented, would you suggest APMC, can it be part of the law? If MSP can be part of the law? What is your suggestion on this?
No, look, what is that big thing? See, today, if you take wages, labor wages, there is a minimum labor wages act. Is it for everybody? No. If you take MNCs, if you take technical people, if you take professionals, if you take doctors, there is no minimum wages. But for certain labor, certain areas, certain this thing. See, the whole thing is, yes, government, yes, as there is a provision for MSP. Which crops? Yes, as far as rice is concerned, it is there, and everybody says it will continue also. See, here, the simplest logic everyone of you have to understand is, why is Government of India procuring at MSP? It is for public distribution system where they give it 70-80% rice and wheat at 1 rupee to poor people, and it will continue. It will, if not for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, because poor people will be there, government will continue. What if I say, like, the so-called minimum and government procurement should do for everything? Is Government of India to procure mirchi and turmeric to make powders and supply to every home? What I mean, and look, I am not saying anything against anybody. All that I am trying to say is, the people who are agitating in Delhi, I don't want to comment on them, but they are not really representing the views of other 90%. They may be rice, wheat is okay, but rest of the farmers, we believe that these reforms are critical for the simple reason as you are asking. Yes, definitely there is a minimum support price. Look at any agreement you make, whether tomorrow if I am going to process my produce like cotton, like vegetable, like the mango, tomato, or turmeric, anything, when I enter into an agreement with a processor, marketeer or exporter, definitely both of us are going to agree on a price, whether it is a minimum, maximum. Nothing, government has nothing to do. It will be beyond me. Do you think if an industrialist from Ahmedabad or Coimbatore can exploit me? No, I don't think today in 2020 anybody can exploit anybody. We are smart enough. We are already in the process. It is possible and it is practical. Yes.
I mean, very interesting. You represent farmers in such a big way, but you feel that this can still be workable. So great. I'll get back to you, Reddy Garu.
One thing, Mr. Agarwal, very seriously, I'm telling people, you just can't put gun to the government head and say you have do it that way or my way. No, the only way is now. I am also asking those people agitating in Delhi. You ask government to withdraw the acts. No, I say you have to sit and discuss with us also. 90% are there from Assam to Kerala to Rajasthan to Bengal. I mean, you have to discuss with us, not those people sitting in Delhi making orders. No, it is not agreeable to us. That's not correct way. Negotiations in a democracy, parliamentary democracy, you have 100 and odd ways. Look, one thing in 1990, you made reforms, and how many changes have come? Bloody hell, our own constitution, you have made 75 amendments to our constitution.
That leads my next question to Mr. Ram Kondania. Sir, taking forward after listening to three speakers, are there any, I don't know if I can use the word misconceptions about the farm bills? If at all any, can you take us through that? What are the misconceptions in this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. And also thanks for giving me the opportunity to bring out some of these aspects. Firstly, I think everybody agrees that the reforms are required. Even Ajay ji said that reforms are required and everybody agrees. There are definitely issues with some of the aspects of these acts. I think the way, probably the process that it went through for bringing out the acts could have been better. Some of the drafting of the acts could have been better. So there are definitely issues with that, and I'll bring those things out. But also, we have to understand that these acts are in the right direction, because we have to bring down the role of government in agricultural markets. Because of government's interference, the inefficiencies have crept into the market. And as MSP has actually made the markets more skewed and inequitable. I mean, for example, Punjab and Haryana produce 15% of country's rice, but 30% of procurement of rice is from Punjab and Haryana. Okay, so the largest rice producing state like West Bengal, which produces 14% of country's rice, gets only 5% of procurement. So there are inequities in this. Same way in wheat also, if you see. So the procurement is not uniform across the states. There is no quota based on production. So that's why 88% of rice produced by Punjab and Haryana is procured by the government. Similarly, 70% of wheat produced by Punjab and Haryana is procured by the government. So there is a certain level of dependence of Punjab and Haryana on the government for procurement purposes, which has an assured market, which has led to, without any doubt, overproduction of rice and wheat in the country. While we are importing 75,000 crores worth of edible oils, we are still overproducing rice and wheat, and we are losing them in storage. So that is one part of it. There is also, on the other hand, these apprehensions which have been misconceptions, I would say, have been spread about the acts. Number one, I would like to clarify that these are only two parallel systems which will operate, APMCs and the private mandis. Like Ajay ji said, farmer may choose one. I don't think farmer will choose one, because the government procures 60 to 70 million tons of food grains every year. And they have to procure. There is no option for the government, because we have 1.5 lakh crores budget every year for Food Security Act, under Food Security Act. So the poor people have to be fed this kind of cheaper rice and wheat. So procurement will happen. Procurement will happen at MSP. Procurement will happen through APMCs and mandis, right? Procurement will not happen outside. So I think to that extent, the mandis will have sufficient traffic in them, and there is no reason to believe that they will not operate. Second is that there are 23 crops under MSP, but only rice and wheat are used for procurement purposes by the government. If government has to buy all the 23 crops, they'll have to spend 17 lakh crores every year just on procurement. And the government's budget, 50% of the budget will go for that. So that will not happen. That means many crops will operate on free market system. They're operating today, and they will continue to operate on free market system. So there is enough business for private mandis as well as APMCs. For the farmer, it is a choice. If he finds that something is not selling at MSP, he can go to APMC and try to sell it at MSP. Although in APMCs also today, everything is not selling at MSP. That also we should be very clear. It's mainly rice and wheat. When government buys, it goes at MSP. So there is enough business for both. I don't think mandis will collapse. But of course, I will also come to some suggestions later, but right now I'm only answering the questions. So procurement and MSP operations will continue. There is another point which was raised, that traders need not register, okay? And there will be unaccounted number of traders operating in the market. There is a section 4 of the Act, which says that a digital registration system for all the private traders will be put in place. In fact, it says that the central government is free to prescribe any registration system under which all the traders have to be registered. So I think the government will come out, like someone said earlier, there is still time for bringing out all the rules under these acts. So as the rules get formed, I think a lot of these things will get clarified. Right now, people are reading the bare act and then reacting, which is not really correct. A lot of rules have to be framed. The next point is that no state regulator. I think there is a provision under this that each state has to nominate a registration authority under which all the contracts will be registered, right? So contract The guy who is making a contract cannot just make a contract and run away. He has to register the all contracts have to be registered, and it is the state government which has to make that registration authority operative in each state. So there will be a regulator to that extent on the Contract Act, but it is right that there is no regulator on the what is the other act, what we call as the Farm Produce Trade and Commerce Act. So that is also an aspect on which I will make some recommendations. No transactions will be recorded. This is also not correct because
I think you're stuck, sir. I can't hear you. Can others hear? Okay. So, Ram sir, can you hear us?
I think connection is lost.
I think, yeah. Just wait for a few seconds and then see, because oh, it disconnected. Okay. I think I'll get back to him. Ajay ji, can I talk to you? Hello? Mr. Ajay Jakar?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, yeah. See, now I'll come to mother of all the questions. I would put it this way. Probably you are the best person if you can look into kind of, give your not only just inputs, but probably analyze. Why are farmers insisting on repealing of the acts altogether? So that is something, जब भी कोई जाता है चिट्ठी गवर्नमेंट से, अब तो गवर्नमेंट, now farmers say, we have only one condition: repeal the acts. So why are they looking at only repealing the acts but not looking at any other discussions or points?
So before I answer your question, let me give my comments on Chengal Reddy ji's comments. I'm very sad to hear that a farmer representative is saying on a webinar that he does not know why farmers are protesting. He also used the word Naxals, trying to say that agitators are Naxals. And he also said he should be answering questions on APMC. There are no regulators, no trade registration, no transaction record, no data. He goes on and on talking about MSP not being available to 90% farmers. Rather than say make MSP available to 90% farmers, he's saying why should 10% get MSP? I'm really ashamed to have a farmer leader like him talk like this in a webinar. And coming to Kondalia ji's comments, I'm very happy that he agrees that there is no registration for trade in APMC markets or outside APMC markets. He misunderstood me when I said that farmers will be, that trader, when I said that two markets cannot operate. What I meant to say was that if there are two markets, one where there's regulation and laws, then traders will not come to that market. If traders do not come to that market, then farmers will be forced to go to open market. They'll be forced to go to the Wild West. So we must be very clear. And every time we talk about MSP not being available for 90% farmers, we move away from the acts. So let's come back to the point about why farmers are insisting on repeal of the acts. And sir, it is also wrong to say that farmers are not ready to negotiate. Today, only farmers have given that they are ready to negotiate. They've given a time to the government that they will talk to them. They've already talked to them 6 times. They are going to be talking to them after 2 days again. They have given a letter to the government 2 hours ago. So let's not say that farmers are not ready to negotiate. But what is the problem? I'm very thankful to the Prime Minister that after he realized that they had erred big time, that they're ready to amend the acts. See, the government is not amending the acts because there's pressure on them. If the government was to do that, they would repeal the acts also. So the government is ready to amend the acts because the government today realizes there are problems with the acts. And so we are very thankful to that. But one must understand, and I'll give you an example why farmers want a repeal of your acts. So let us say, Agarwal Saab, you go with your family to buy a car to a showroom. You buy a new car from the showroom, you take your family and you're going back home, the car stops working. So you call the company takes your car. Next day, the company tells you, sir, I'm very sorry, Agarwal Saab, the engine broke down, the shaft is broken, and the steering wheel is gone, and the electricals are not working. We will repair the car and we will give it back to you. So what will you tell the company? Do you want a new car or do you want a repaired car? You answer that question and you will have the answer to my question. There are so many flaws in this act. It will be easier for the government. It will be easier for farmers. It will be good for the country. Everyone agrees. Even Kondelia Saab is agreeing. Even Amit ji is agreeing. Everyone is agreeing we need reforms. I'm agreeing we need reforms. All we are saying is that the Agriculture Ministry, and they have messed up big time. They have embarrassed the Prime Minister. They have taken away his political capital by not having consultation with farmers before the ordinances were made, not having consultation with states before the ordinances were made. And that is why we are in this mess. We also want new laws. We also want changes to happen. But the way these laws have been made, the trust has been lost. When people like Chengal Reddy, with people like the IT cell call farmers Khalistanis, paid by Pakistanis, they call them Naxals, they call them all these words, then trust is lost. And that's why farmers have hardened their stand against the government, because they've been pushed against the wall. And I'm ready to answer any point that I have given, but I also request you as a moderator to ask the panelists to stick to the topic and answer my comments. Thank you so much.
Great. See, we'll go back. I think in 2017 or something, Government of India has formed 7 Chief Ministers committee to come on the suggestions, but that committee never submitted the report.
No, sir, that committee submitted the report. I have a copy of that report. There is no mention of doing away with APMC acts and getting these acts. It has no mention of these new acts. It is a myth. It is a lie that is being propagated by people saying that the Chief Minister's Committee recommended these acts. There was no discussion on this topic. The report has been submitted. It's with the government.
Great. Great. Thanks, Ajay. Ram sir, we lost you in
yeah,
between.
Sorry,
if you don't mind, can you complete
I got disconnected. So I was talking about this price information under Section 7. It has to be recorded. And also on the electronic platforms, I think that is something which is very much emphasized in both the acts. We have to find that electronic platforms will actually prove to be the vehicles by which a lot of transactions which take place in the unorganized way, they become in an organized way. So that is something which can benefit actually the people. If you see under the Contract Act, Section 5 gives price assurance to the farmers, because there is a benchmarking to be done with APMC prices according to that. So I think that is a section which gives price assurance. The risk is transferred to the contractor. So payment terms are given under Section 6(1). Section 9 of the Act actually is very good, which says that based on contracts, farmers can get bank credit and insurance coverages, which is actually a problem today for getting bank credit to the farmers. So I think Section 9 of the Contract Act is very good. And Contract Act Section 12 says that there should be a registration authority in each state where all the contracts are registered. So that is also something which is very, very good. We have to understand that production of any value-added products, we are moving from a production-driven agriculture to demand-driven agriculture. That means we will have to produce what is needed by the consumer. A lot of nutrition fortification which is happening already. A lot of products like organic food, nutrition fortified crops, and etc. have to be produced under Contract Acts. So I think this Contract Act actually will make it official. Although earlier contracts were taking place, but they never had the legal backing. So I think this act actually gives the legal backing for that. And some of the things there that I already mentioned about the price thing under Section 5, corporates will form price cartels and exploit the farmers. This is also something which is going around. I don't think that will happen, because private industry players also have to compete with each other. They cannot form cartels and then, it is not that the entire country can be run by 3-4 private companies. This too large a country, too complicated agriculture we have, it cannot be run by just 5-6 companies. So there will not be any such threat, in my opinion. Farmers are not equipped to deal with large private corporates. This is correct. So this is something which has to be addressed through capacity building among FPOs and farmers organizations, and also some institutional mechanism, which I will suggest. Corporates will take away farmers' land. This is a complete lie, because Section 8 of the Act clearly says that no land or any asset of the farmer can be either mortgaged or leased or sold to the corporate. So I think that is also very clear. Dispute settlement mechanism, yes, I do agree that lack of access to courts is an issue. I think that is not correct actually. So that also will come under my recommendations, that we must provide, if the, see, this SDM thing is provided so that there is a quick resolution and farmer need not spend money going to courts. But it has certain downsides to it. So I think we have to cover that properly through an amendment. So those are a few things that I wanted to clarify, that recourse to civil, I'm addressing the points of Ajay. Recourse to civil courts, I agree that we have to provide that. No transactions will be recorded. I have given the section under which transactions will get recorded. No state regulator, I have also given the section under which each state has to appoint a regulator. Traders need not register. That also I have given a section under which all traders will be registered, and central government is authorized to actually prescribe how they will be registered on an electronic platform. And traders will not come to mandis. This I doubt. In fact, another demand which is coming, that MSP should be mandated even for private trade. If you, it is very easy to write a price list. A price list is as good as if there is somebody ready to buy at that price. So you can have MSP as a minimum price, but if there is nobody ready to buy at that price, then what will the farmer do? The private people will run away if you make MSP a mandated thing in the private markets. So I think that is a very bad idea. It will actually drive away and it will kill the, in fact, the example of Bihar, which was given, that that actually re-emphasizes my original point, that these acts cannot be implemented without cooperation from states. I think that is very clear, because agriculture is a state subject, and these acts which try to create some kind of a bypass system will not succeed unless the states cooperate. So I think it is very necessary that center and states work together on this, because even if the center passes a law that private mandis is set up, if the state government doesn't create a facilitating environment for the private people to come and invest, because it will create huge investment opportunities for private trade, private companies, they will not invest if the state governments are not supportive. So I think this whole purpose will be defeated unless the state governments also come on board. So this is quite a complicated subject. It is neither government, when government says that it is the panacea, that is not correct. Farmers say that it has to be repealed, that is also not correct. I think the answer lies in between. Both have taken very extreme positions. I think that has to be resolved, and it has to be resolved through an involvement of state chief ministers and involvement of farmers, responsible farmers organizations, not activists who are working with farmers. They will not solve any problems. So I think we have to really talk to the real farmers organizations, and all state chief ministers must get involved in this. That is the only way to break this deadlock. And how to break it, and what are the things to be done to break it, I will come back on that.
Yeah, I think so nicely, very beautifully, nicely elaborating the laws and then the sections. And Mr. Ajay gave a sort of a news just now, probably when you were away, just about a couple of hours ago. The government has kind of looking into amending the laws. So as you rightly said, neither it is a panacea nor against something. So hopefully some solution will come with this. So with this, I'll move to what you call Amit Gundawala. See, you said you've been from the family or the business of traders yourself, and then now you run a agri bazaar. Now, I have a kind of a different question for you because you have both the experiences. Can you kind of take us through a comparative example, kind of a case study, because we have a lot of IIM students with us, where in a traditional way of farmer produce transaction versus the scenario in the current bill forms, what are the benefits and the challenges?
See, Raj, this is a very simple story. Now, see, majority, again, I'm going to the conflict part, ki maximum agitation is from Haryana and Punjab, because the maximum procurement on MSP is there. And state earns a lot of revenue out of it. So they have increased the market fee if you see in comparison with other states, like MP or Rajasthan, they are charging around 1% to 1.6%, whereas Punjab and Haryana, they are on a very higher side. So their main revenue is coming out of this agri marketing, which they charge from central government, and that's why the agitation is lying on there. So as a farmer, if I'm a farmer and I want to sell outside mandi, so technically speaking, minimum 4% and maximum 7-8% is saved out of commission and market fee. So which eventually can be shared between buyer and seller. Buyer will pay less and seller will get more. Farmer will get more. So that is the biggest advantage to a farmer. Na, ki first, there is opportunity of getting the produce sold at a farm gate itself. So at this current level, Government of India, they have announced 10,000 FPOs also. So what we suggest to, even we have given proposal to many state governments like that, ki we create a cluster of 4 to 5 villages with a radius of around say 10 to 20 kilometer radius, and then you create a collection center. Now that collection center can be for horticulture produce as well as these crops. Then milk collection can be there. So with a minimum investment of around 2 crore or 2 to 3 crore rupees, so that can be connected with these portals. Maybe it can be connected through ENAM, or maybe companies that companies like us can act as an implementing partner over there, where this FPO will become like sort of Aarti only, and they are connected with farmer, and then farmer themselves become the owner of that FPO, and through that both ways they can translate, they can get an input in a very like transparent manner, and then they get sell their produce from that FPO only, and the aggregation will happen in the village itself. Right now, on an average, they have to travel around 30 to 40 kilometers for a mandi, and that will be reduced by 5 to 10 kilometers. So these points, you just imagine what a level of employment and level of investment will come to the rural economy. So that is, fabulous. And then around 3 to 4% will be saved. Anyhow, 1% also will be spent on this aggregation point, or maybe some like minor commissions will be given to these portals also. But averagely, 3 to 4% will be saved, which around 1.5 or 2% can be paid to farmer extra. If I am getting a mustard at a X mandi, which has been sold at like say 4,500 level, so just imagine ki around 180 rupees farmer can grab more if he is selling outside the mandi, just because of the saving on account of commissions and market fee. Now coming down to the mandi, see, nobody can just remove the mandi. See, it is all about the physical infrastructure. Even though this ordinance has been started from June itself till now, it is more than 6 months now. What is the level of percentage which has gone outside the mandi? Because infrastructure need is there. Now the environment is set. Before these acts, there was no, the governments were not even allowing to do transition, so there was no infrastructure. Now people are thinking to invest in the villages. They will create collection center. Then eventually somebody can shift to this new collection center. But otherwise, they all have to come to mandis only. Now after this act has been announced, so many states have reduced the market fee. Many mandis have reduced the commission part also. So they have to be on a win-win approach, which is pro farmer only. Right now, if the commission was like say 5%, now it will be reduced to 1.5 or 2%. So that is advantage to both buyer and seller. Now, where is the harm? So this is entire competitive, which see right now, anything which is outside mandi will give a tough competition to inside mandi. So inside and outside, then if they both will have a competitive environment, it has to be benefited to both buyer and seller. There is no argument to it. So fallacies or any, because it is a new act and there is a provision of creating rules and all, so by the virtue of time, obviously everything will be getting settled. The moment you face any problem, then the rules can be amended multiple times. So there is no issue at all. So overall, like it is a very win-win. And apart from, so who are the major loser is the state government revenue, which was coming out of market fee, and maybe a small segment of Kacha Artiya, where they were earning a royalty out of 2% or 2.5%, 3% sort of income, which eventually they have to come on a competitive ground. So that is the pain point which they were enjoying as a legacy since last maybe 100 years. So that may be a challenge now.
I mean, just an extension of this thing. See, there are few aggregators like you who are helping the post-harvest, produce to be put on trade. If I look into the next 10 years horizon, so what would be the percentage of trade that you anticipate to come through this loss, like crossing the borders, selling anywhere to anybody, corporates getting involved?
So there is
a hypothetical thing.
So see, lot of things are happening on a technological front. See, even though we are trying very hard to get transition on AgriBazaar. So every time on even every webinar, I used to say that, ki boss, agri mandis are, these APMC mandis are very perfect. You know, there is a full-fledged infrastructure is available. There are all set of requirements starting from the price information, then handling, logistic part, labor is there, finance is there. So if all these things has to come on an agri portal. So if I'm being successful of getting integrated all the service provider, where so like we are working very hard on the quality aspect. So we are trying on some, you know, mobile imagery thing where with a click of photo, which a farmer can take on his crop, and then eventually my algorithm can give you physical parameters, how much is weevil or shriveled or damaged or discolor based on your color and size of that grain. So then buyer can take a stand. Okay, now virtually you have clicked the photo and then you know the result. So then buyer can take all, which eventually right now is happening through the commission agents only, because by touch and feel, by seeing that commodity, they sense the quality and then they report to the buyer and then eventually trade happens. So technology will be the main part. The moment you will be having a, you know, proper integration of your logistics service provider, then the transporters will be there who will be aggregating this like commodity, and then eventually it will be transported to the buyer. And then finance is a major drawback. See, these mandis are nothing but they all are financiers. So they pay farmer immediately, and then buyers who are buying from the mandi, they pay with the norms, maybe 4 days to 10 days to 15 days story. So the bill discounting part need to be very transformed, and then eventually with database or with the data, eventually, you know, these financing companies or NBFCs or the banks will come on the portal and they will do the bill discounting part to the buyers. So unless and until all these mechanisms put together on a portal, then it will become a seamless story, and then you will find multiples of, you know, transitions happening, and then it will move very fast. So that time has come now. Government has enabled it right now. See, otherwise, who will invest? It's a heavy asset, is a heavy technological interface which need to be created. Last 5 years, they have put a lot of investment in ENAM creation. They have done quite well. So now they are even allowing these companies to have an interface with ENAM. So ENAM will act as a server. They will act as a, you know, regulator point of view, and then companies like us will become, you know, service provider, and then the whole ecosystem will work towards a collaborative part, and then eventually it will get a success.
Yes, yes. I'll come back to it. I'll get back to Chengalreddy Garu. Can you unmute Reddy Garu? Please unmute your mic. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. See,
Yes,
some discussion happened amongst all of us. You know, specifically related to you know, access to judiciary, or you know, the what we call the what if something goes wrong between the corporate or the farmer or something like that. I would like to put a question. What type of arbitration system would you prefer to be adopted in such cases? Is it a perception management challenge, or devising the bill has to be kind of changed on contract farming?
See, before I answer that question, I want to share with you the initiative by us in regard to mango processing and Coca-Cola and other mango farmers. We have initiated in association with Confederation of Indian Industry. Look at mango situation. We produce 21 million tons, but we process hardly 1.5 million or 2 million tons. Our wastage is 30%. Now, during the discussion, we found that the farmers do not understand how the market fluctuates, whether it is 5 rupees or 15 rupees or 25 rupees. Same way the industry and also is worried whether it is 5 rupees or 25 rupees. When we met both of them sit together, they came to a conclusion, yes, we can come to a mutually agreed price. This is already happening. Now, why I am very enthusiastic about our reform process is, first of all, we must understand that the discussion, so-called discussion consultation is all not correct, because remember way back in 1985, Mr. Sarat Joshi said it, and 2006, Mr. Swaminathan said it, Humpty number of reports, everybody says the reforms are necessary, so we are going with the reform. The question of, the way I'm trying to say is, look at the commercial, the spices, look at the edible oils, look at the groundnut, look at what are the immense opportunities for farmers. The problem we farmers are facing, first of all, we don't know what are the quality parameters. We don't know what is the changing trends of the consumers. We don't know what are the new technologies that have developed. You know, very sad part of in India, in 2002, first genetic technology was approved for BT cotton. And in 18 years, no government allowed it. And very interestingly and absurd, the government is importing genetic edible oil since 2007. That means governmental policies, political system is so absurd in this country that you allow farmers.
No, Reddy Garu, fine. We know the history. What I would like to know is where, like, especially, since the discussion is on the farm laws, so can we look into, like, on judiciary part specifically? Because this question came from.
Yes, sir. It is one of the simplest things. See, it so happened in the act, the government seems to have put a lot of emphasis on revenue authorities. Personally, and our own organization, we feel some sort of a regulatory judicial system to be constituted, like judicial commissions. Now you have regulatory commission in electricity authority, in the LIC. Everywhere you have a regulatory authority. Put 1 or 2 people in the district or 2 districts, and there is, as Mr. Kaundinya said, there is provision to register. So whatever agreement is made, it will be registered with the judicial authority. And if there is a problem, you go to judicial authority, you can resolve it in 30 days. This is not an issue that, as if this is not a big issue. This is a very simple issue. And we can definitely, we have already written to government, and government said that they will consider it. And this is because the revenue authorities have a lot of problems. Therefore, I would say a regulatory commission system is the best way to resolve this crisis. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I think I'm coming to the last person's views on the second round of questions. My friends, post this, will take few questions from the audience. Ram sir, back to you. We spoke, I think almost we have covered so many things out here. But if I ask you, because you took the law section by section, but if I say, if you have to suggest, what would be your suggestions to make these bills work in the ecosystem, and what were the amendments? Like just now we came to know that the government is looking to bring in some amendments. If so, what amendments you would suggest in the bill so that it becomes a workable implementation for thing, and it becomes a win-win? But it's something very interesting.
Sure.
How do you make it? What are the amendments suggested? Probably Ajay, you can also please add your points post Ramji speaks.
So I have 2 sets of recommendations. One is what I call the ecosystem recommendations, which are actually needed to be done by the government to create a right ecosystem for this whole reforms to succeed. Okay. In that first thing, I already mentioned that state and center have to work together. Second thing is that all under the acts, the rules have to be framed, which will take some time. I am advising that the government should take a 2 years transition time, because it is not something that these acts will become operational overnight. No, they cannot become operational overnight. So my recommendation is that they should take a 2 years transition period. And during the transition period, they should do some of these things that I'm suggesting. Number 1, they should announce a large fund to upgrade APMC mandis. So APMC mandis have been generating revenues, but they have not been upgraded either technologically or infrastructure-wise by the states. So I think Government of India may announce 20,000 crores, 30,000 crores, 40,000 crores, whatever is the amount they have in mind to upgrade all the APMCs in the country, at least the important ones initially, over a period of 2-3 years. Second thing is that announce a major budget to conduct a major large-scale capacity building among farm FPOs and farmers, because they should know how to make a contract. They should know how to do a digital transaction. They should know what are the legal aspects of the businesses they are getting into. They should first of all understand what is agricultural market, what are the terms used in that market, how to actually transact in that market. So all that capacity building has to be done, for which a major budget must be announced right away. The third is that a national digital platform, a grid consisting of ENAM and others like Amit's company, and there are others who are actually operating electronic platforms, bring all of them onto one grid so that the farmer enters the grid and in a seamless way he is able to do his transactions and come out of it. I think that is, otherwise farmer will get confused with so many electronic platforms in the market. Another thing is that there must be, each state must announce a policy framework for private industry to come and make investments in that state. See, without that, nothing will happen. Otherwise, this will just remain a paper tiger. Nothing will happen if the private industry doesn't have the supporting policy framework for investment. Next, I would suggest that every state government must set up an agri-business center under the government, under the SDM or whatever it is in each district. So this center actually works as a bridge between farmers and FPOs and commercial organizations, and it helps the farmers and FPOs to make this kind of, because this is going to be a big thing in the future. Exports. India has major agricultural export targets. We can export a lot of stuff from India. Then the entire contract farming will create huge opportunities. So I think there is a need for a facilitating center in each district. Safety net of MSP, although MSP has its own disadvantages, but I think as a measure, government must give a safety net of MSP to the farmers in writing. There is no harm in that, but it cannot be a law because MSP was never in law. It need not be in law, but it can be in a written assurance. There should be a designated authority in each district for registration of all the contracts, which is already there. So they should just establish it during this 2-year period. Announce a massive incentive program for farmers in Punjab and Haryana for crop diversification. It could be in the form of maybe 10,000 rupees per acre if you sow anything other than rice in Kharif. And even country is importing 75,000 crores worth of edible oils. Why shouldn't farmers move from rice to cultivating oil seeds or pulses or fruits or vegetables, whatever it is? So I think a massive program for Punjab and Haryana farmers to actually diversify. And also launch a major public education campaign. With so much of misinformation going around, everybody is confused. Nobody understands the real picture. I think government itself must run a public education program. These are what I call ecosystem recommendations. Now I will tell 4 amendments that have to be made in the acts. My strong suggestion is that there should be a regulatory body set up at all India level. Just like what Mr. Changareddy also said, that there is a regulatory body for insurance, there is a regulatory body for airlines, for everybody there is a regulatory body. There should be an agricultural markets regulatory body set up in the country, which will oversee the implementation of all these acts. It will also keep an eye on oligopolistic pricing practices, if any, by any of the large companies in these markets. I think it is necessary to have an oversight like this. It is necessary to have a watchdog, or kind of a regulatory authority, so that I do know that everybody is not a saint. So there will be malpractices. There will be people who will try to misuse some of this. So I think there is a need for a regulatory authority. Second thing is that this digital registration system, which is there in provision is there under Section 4, that must be made. Although Section 4 says that center will specify what is that authority, I think it must be made now in the amendment itself. They can prescribe how it will function. The third one is that dispute settlement mechanism, what we talked about. Yeah. If the farmers or the corporates are unhappy with the order of the SDM or the appellate authority, they should have the right to go to the court. I think that court going authority or right cannot be taken away from the farmers. So I think that is something which is a must. And finally, I would also say that it is not necessary to bring all crops under this from day one. I think there can be a staggered approach that out of hundreds of crops in the country, which crops will come under this first, then in the second phase and the third phase. So over a period of 5, 6 years or 10 years, all crops can get covered. So what that will do is that it will actually create more peace in the minds of the farmers, and they will accept it better. And my final recommendation is that there should be a procurement quota for each state. This cannot happen that 88% of rice produced by Punjab is procured and 4% of rice produced by Bengal is procured. This is not correct. This type of what I call inequity in the country on procurement money which is being spent is not right, because that has encouraged Punjab and Haryana to overproduce rice and wheat beyond the needs of the country, and the other states are not getting any benefit out of that. So I think there should be some, based on the production volumes, there should be some kind of a procurement quota for each of the states. I think that also can be brought under this. It will be actually helpful. So these are a few suggestions from my side, both for ecosystem as well as for amendments.
Very well explained, Sir, Ajay ji, I think you would also would like to add some amendments. Would you suggest government should consider to be part of the bills?
I think Kondalia ji is like a mentor to me. He's already given so many amendments that I really hope he was the one who had made the bills, not the agriculture ministry. They should have consulted him. We would not have had a whole list. It is as long a list as the acts itself. Now, I only want to say that the key point that is coming out from Amit ji's, Kondalia sahab's, and even Chengal Reddy ji, that rules are pending. Rules should be made. But see, this is the problem. I have worked with the government and I realize that rules is where the fine print comes in and things go bad or good. So, so many amendments Kondalia Saab has said. So if you look at just, rather than going into each amendment, if you look at the larger picture, that so many amendments, so many doubts are there and the rules still need to be framed. So the government should just hold the bills, frame these amendments and these rules with consultation, at least now consult, and then come out with the acts. You know, that will build the trust with the government and amongst the farmers. But the problem is, you know, even the government is, I think so, of two types. One is the Prime Minister's office, who was not aware of what the Agriculture Ministry does. Agriculture Ministry did not consult, and that is why we have this big mess. And I think those bureaucrats and ministers who have brought this country to this point, where even the Prime Minister's image has got impacted, must be held accountable for the acts they have got without consultation. Nowhere in the world. You had Agarwal Sahab mentioned Mr. Panagria. I read his editorial that he wrote in the Indian Express, and he said it is not necessary to consult. You know, such acts come without consultation. And he's teaching at Columbia University. I don't know what he's teaching his students. I mean, how can you come up? How can some economists say that consultations are not required before rules are made? So I will not go into each amendment. I will agree with Kondalia Saab that lots of amendments are required. The government should hold it. He should frame the rules in consultation. And I think points that Amit ji has also said will get covered with it. But to a point that you have a commission, like a regulatory commission for all India, I would only want to leave a point. I think so Amit Mundawala ji will be able to explain this better. How can a small farmer in my village access that regulatory authority in Delhi? It's not possible. You know, let's be practical. These things have to be done at the state level, at the ground level. If you say 10,000 FPOs will be made, 10,000 FPOs won't be made for 10 years. You can't say कि FPO ban jayega, unko educate karo, you know. But yes, we need a transition, like Kondalia Saab said, over 10 years. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you so much.
I think if you look at the conclusion that is coming, if I would like to conclude in one thing, I think the acts can still be implemented. A lot of inclusion is required from various factors and sectors. Sit across the table, talk to them. For a while, hold on. And when all of us reach an amicable solution, so and then things can be worked out. Awesome. I really enjoyed talking to each one of you. Friends, let's take few questions from the audience who have been bombarding on Q&A session. I would request, who would like to put a question to our panelists, raise your hand in the participants thing, and please introduce yourself and be very, very specific on the question. And if you want a particular panelist to answer your question, please, you can direct the question to the particular panelist.
Q&A part as well.
Yeah, Manpreet, we'll take those questions. Meanwhile, let me just, we will go with the thing. 1 second.
Sanjit Sinha, you can go with your question.
Sorry?
Sir, I asked.
Thank you, Manpreet. It was a wonderful debate and a wonderful panel to have, and we heard every one of them. I think I would just
Prasenjit, like can you introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, hi, this is Prasenjit from Dhanuka Agritech Limited. We are also co-sponsors of the event. I just want to make a note of to the audience and to the panelists. So we were expecting a debate. This is a gentry. This is not a TV debate, and this is a gentry which is educated and understands the problem actually. So we were expecting, pros and cons of the bills and the way forward. But certainly some personal attacks by Mr. Ajay is not expected from an educated panelist to Chengal Reddy. He has been a leader for 3 decades.
Mr. Prasenjit, this session is to put you a question, not to. Ajay, just
I need to answer this. I need to answer this. Mr. Sinha, you are a sponsor from Dhanuka. Listen to me. Listen to me. If any panelist calls farmers Naxalite, I'm going to respond.
Sir, it is not about
you are a corporate house. You should mind what you're telling farmers.
Sponsorship. There were proposals proposed by many of the panelists, other than criticizing the government and the bureaucrats and the 90%.
Mr. Prasenjit, see, you are supposed to put a question. I would see. Just put a question.
Not a panelist. Why is he responding?
I put in a question. Not a panelist. Now my question is, I've put in something, and my question is to Mr. Ajay, sir. In the entire debate, we did not hear a single recommendation from you for improvement, other than installing and rejecting the entire bills. So what is your final suggestion to go ahead?
Yeah, Mr. Ajay will answer your question. Yes.
So, Mr. Agarwal Sahab, you have asked for questions. Mr. Prasenjit Sinha, that's what his name says.
Sir, you're even fighting with the audience, sir.
Listen,
Prasenjit ji, please see, I would be forced to mute you in case, if this happens.
As a farmer, I will always respond when farmers are called Naxalites, and I don't care if it's a webinar or a TV discussion or it's a panel discussion. And so if your question is what should happen, and as an industrial house, you should be careful what you speak. You can try and be sweet to the bureaucrats and the government. I really don't care about your opinion, and I don't even want to answer your question because you really don't know how to talk in the first place. But the second question, the thing that you're asking, what should be required, is that the bill should be put on hold. Lots of amendments have been issued, and we should do this. And the best way to amend the APMCs, which we all realize needs to be amended, and we have given this suggestion to the finance minister for last 7 years, at least 5 years continuously, to the finance ministers personally by Bharat Krishak Samaj, is that financially incentivize states to amend APMC acts. And wherever there is a revenue loss, compensate the states like GST compensation happens. Have an amicable solution where all states are on board, that mandi fees is same in the country, where commissions are same for produce all over the country. We need some standardization. But this is not the way to go about. Really disappointing to have such sponsors on the show. And I also listen, this is not enough. I mean, how can a sponsor come and say the panelist is not good? I've never seen some debate like this.
No, just to share with, of course, I agree with you. I think panelists have got, sponsors should not be commenting on such things.
How dare they? What do they think?
I agree with you.
Just because you have money, you can come and say what you want to say.
All of us know Dhanuka. At personal level, I know Dhanuka much, much better. Anyway, I'll not get into the details. We'll go to the next question. Rajat Agarwal, can you unmute and put your question? Rajat, are you there? Okay. Jagjit Sikka?
Yeah, hello to all the panelists. I have a simple question for all of you. None of you have spoken about the poor conditions of the farmers and the living standards and about the inequality building up in the society. Now you are taking up the farm also, and you are talking about MSP. MSP is the minimum support price. And there's a lot to say about how it is calculated. The farmers' inputs, the cost of inputs, they are not rightly taken into consideration. There's a fraudulent way of doing it. And still we are not ready to pay the minimum. Chengal Reddy has said 90% of the farmers are doing this thing. Are those 90% very rich now? Are those even able to have the health services?
Jagjit ji, please, can you specifically put the question?
Yes, I am asking all the panelists to tell me how these laws will improve the financial conditions of 26 crore families of the farmers.
I think, who would like to answer this question?
May I, Mr. Agarwal?
Yeah, you can, but yeah.
See, first of all, we must understand why is that the problem of farmers remains, say, stagnant productivity, GDP for last 30 years, my friend? Because if you see service and industrial sectors, they got technology, they got investment, they got market incentives, and all the reforms have come. What is a reform? If you look at what about our agriculture? Why is that our productivity is stagnated in the last 30 years? Because there are no technologies are made available to farmers. We are not allowed free market. That's exactly my friend. In the last 30 years, right from 1985, Mr. Saraj Joshi, then later Mr. Swaminathan, so many others, parliament committees, we wanted the reforms. What exactly is the reform? If you look at these three laws, there are only three fundamental things. First and foremost is once you enter into, allow a farmer to sell or a purchaser to purchase from any part of the country, what will happen is there is going to be a long-term agreement between the producer and the markets, whether it is a processor, exporters, or XYZ. Now, once you have an agreement for 5-10 years time, the farmers will get extension services. He will get advice on banking systems. He will get advice on insurance. So many things will come. Now, today, what is happening? Everyone are looking to governments, whether it is state or central, we don't know. And then look at the policies of government.
Rediger, no, his question was very specific.
All
How will this improve the life of the farmers?
Yeah, all that I am requesting, my friend, is please understand our tragedy is because there are no reforms, there are no changes. We have been stagnant for 30 years.
No.
That is exactly why the reforms have come. That is why the recommendations are made by the committee. That's exactly what the government has introduced. And they are being opposed. What can be done? You tell us.
No, Rediger, I think the question was very specific. So we would appreciate, because as questions are coming from the attendees, audience.
True, I agree. Only answer is reforms. Reforms is the way out. Yes. Reforms is the way out, my friend. Reforms
okay, fine. Would anybody would like to add on this? Yes, Ajay ji.
Sir, there is a tendency in many countries, not just in India, that food inflation must be controlled and mitigated. It's a good opinion that it's a good theory that there is. But unfortunately, farm gate prices are suppressed to mitigate inflation for consumers. It is what is called politics of food, where how funds are allocated. And if farmers do not get a fair price for their produce, that could be through MS, that could be calculated by MSP, it could be the real cost of growing food, it could be other things. This gap will not finish. It is a much bigger thing than these bills. These bills cannot get a fair price to farmers. The government policy, not just India, it could be in other places, it needs to come to a point where the governments realize that it is good to have low food prices, but not at the cost of farm gate prices. It's a much bigger thing of how import-export happens, about how regulations are imposed for onion prices, for potato prices. It's a much bigger thing, how the government allocates funds. And a lot of the food subsidies are, you will read in newspapers that food subsidies are, when money is given for food subsidies, it is a misnomer to say that it is a subsidy going to the farmer. It's actually going to the consumer. And we need to differentiate between what is being given to the consumer, what is the consumer getting ultimately at the end of the day. And yes, MSP, I want to come back on this point of MSP. I think MSP is here to stay. It is not going away. It will have changes to it. And that change is going to be painful for many farmers. It's the duty of the government to make sure that change is less painful. It is to mitigate that pain.
Thank you.
I only want one sentence.
Rediger, we'll get back to you.
No, 1 second. I only say, how do we build competitiveness of Indian farmers when an industry and service sector has become globally competitive?
No, but there is a difference. The service sector is different than farming. Farming is very simple. I mean, I've been with the farmers last 30 years. I know a farmer, even if he gets the best produce, like for example, one small cyclone, a heavy rainfall, gone. Nothing is in your control.
Okay. I don't want to argue on that.
This industry is standardized, not farming.
I believe we'll
take two more questions before
Raj, I just want to add one point that most of the crops like rice, wheat, cotton, oil seeds, these are all global crops. The prices are determined by global supply chain, supply demand situations. So I think unless our farmer is competitive enough to compete in the international markets, that is the only way he will make more money. This is point number one. Point number two is that these acts will help in reducing the supply chain links. Currently, there are 8 to 9 hands which change by the time produce goes from the farm to the fork. Okay, and farmer is getting less than 30% of consumer price today. Can we change, with the help of these laws, shorten the supply chains so that they become only 3 or 4 links in the supply chain, so that the consumer and farmer are more closely connected, and consumer price can actually come down and farmers' realization can actually go up. Farmer should be able to get more than 50% of the consumer price. This is one of the targets which we have discussed in many committee meetings also. And that is the target with which government is also working. I think that is what we should try to achieve, so that both the consumer and the farmer both are benefited.
Yeah, we can take 2 more questions. Manpreet, can you pick up 2 questions?
Sir, should I ask people who have raised hand?
Yes, from the raised hands.
Rakesh Kumar Chaturvedi, you can put your question across.
Rakesh, are you there? Fine. Radheshyam?
Yeah. Mr. Radheshyam?
Yeah, thanks everyone sir, for allowing me to ask the question. Hope I am audible.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, as I hearing that the conclusion of debate is like we should hold, like government should hold these farm laws. But everybody will agree that the reform was held from last so many years. And everybody will agree that whenever there is a change, some problem will be there. So what is the final conclusion from the panelist?
We allow them and then go on making changes over a period of time as and when the necessity arises, my friend. Reforms are introduced, and over a period we realize the ground reality, and slowly we will resolve them. That's the way how any reforms are implemented in any country or in any matter.
I think Mr. Radheshyam's question was very specific. Probably who would like to take this?
So again, so things are same. There is no need to hold actually. So amendments will keep on happening, like
coming. Yes.
This is a very win-win proposition for everybody, including farmers. Like, so farmers are the most beneficiary in this act. So it is all about educating farmers and getting them aware, and then infrastructure need to be created fast. In how infrastructure will be created? When you allow somebody. If you again hold, then story will be stalemate.
So Amitji, what you are saying is that only because the acts have come will the private sector invest.
Sir, earlier how somebody will come to your village and invest when they are not allowed to do transition there? It is very simple.
No, we are not saying private mandi should not be allowed. We are saying private mandi should be allowed. I mean, that's my opinion. Private mandi should be allowed, but there should be a level playing field between private mandis and government APMC markets. We are asking that the same fees should be given, because when the state governments collect rural development fees, then they use it to make roads in which your private mandis will operate from, will also have access to the same roads, same bridges, same electricity lines, same education facilities, same assaying facilities. So we just want a level playing field we are talking about. Like Ram Kondaleji said, that so many amendments are required. And I agree with Chengal Reddy ji that yes, amendments will be required. But the problem is when these acts were made, nobody was consulted. That is not how Chengal Reddy ji laws are made in a civilized world. This happens in an autocracy. You could expect that in Afghanistan or something. In India, when in any civilized country, in a democracy, when acts are going to be enacted, you should talk to stakeholders, especially as Ram Kondaleji is saying, Amit ji is saying that farmers will benefit. अरे भाई किसानों से बात तो कर लेनी थी पहले सरकार.
अरे भाई 1990 में रिफॉर्म्स आए, किससे कंसल्ट किए? नरसिम्हा राव, मनमोहन सिंह.
नहीं, I think
that is not. See,
divert our attention from farmers.
Let us not say. I'm just saying, sir, this is a problem of developing countries, because we are fixated on outcomes. We do not try and correct the processes that reach those outcomes. And because those processes were not employed specifically in these acts, that is why all the amendments that Ram Kondaleji is saying, even Amit ji is agreeing, have not been addressed. And now the government has to do that.
I need one clarification from you. See, you are like most, expert in this panel regarding the farmers and particularly to the government side even. So this market yard APMCs were created in 70s, and why it is not called as tax instead of fee? It is about the development. Key market fee, whatever collected will be spent on the infrastructure. inside the mandi, and then since last 10 years, there have been no new market additions. It is all about the existing market, which they are creating huge funds, and these funds has been misused properly. No,
I agree with you. I agree with you.
All these APMCs are autonomous body. Their state has nothing to do with this fund, and all these autonomous body are politically motivated and they misuse the fund. There is no development happening, and
no elections. No, they never held elections to market. Yeah.
Ram suggested that there has to be heavy innovation inside market. He suggested 10,000 crore, 20,000 crore should be spent on and like innovating or enhancing that market. So if they are already having these funds, why they are not operating themselves? Even ENAM has been struggling to get implementing last 4 or 5 years. Not a single mandi has implemented so far in a practical way. So where these funds are going? 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. What the hell we are doing? There is no requirement of APMC fee at all.
It is political rehabilitation centers, my friend.
What has this got to do with politics? It is a governance issue. Ameji, I agree with you. I agree with you. Funds are being misutilized. I agree with you. The present status quo is not good. We all agree with that. We all want reform. Now the question is that these are not the reforms we want. We want a different version of reforms. And we cannot do.
Maybe what we call as a modified version, or as we say,
yes, I agree with you.
So you are saying
the status quo is not good.
You are saying who was stopping investment? If I am investing X money into any village and that investment I'm not getting in return, and in lieu of that I'm going to pay to government. You are saying that the fee should be charged in that outside mandi also. Rather, it should be given for the CapEx composition itself. So that is a practical story now. If APMC is already developed, you should not charge any fee over there. And instead that outside somebody is creating infrastructure, he should charge some cess over it, so that it automatically become win-win. So that people will come to villages and they will invest in villages. How investment will come if it is not level playing? Till now it was not level playing at all. Now they have tried a lot to make it level playing. So that is the difference which we are actually not realizing what we are doing.
Great. So let's hope you are right. Let's hope this government is right, and let's hope we all realize that farmers are wrong at the end of the day.
No, it's not. It's not. We are never wrong. That farmers are wrong. We are not telling that. See, we all agreed in this today's discussion that all of us are right. But the only way is how do we put it across? So it's not. Nobody's wrong here. Something nice. What I enjoyed talking today is that all of us are agreeing this is required. But the way it has to be communicated, the way it has to be put it forward, has to be.
I think we discussed that if the government takes a breather and then formulates the rules, consults the chief ministers and some responsible farmers organizations, and creates those rules and amendments. So take a time, take an year or something like that to do all this. Meanwhile, set up some infrastructure, set up all those things which are needed as ecosystem support systems. Then it will fly. I don't think anybody will oppose. Half of them are opposing because they were not consulted. I think that is the main thing, that if there was a small consultation, many egos would have been satisfied. But that
it is not about egos. It is not about egos. If they had consulted you, Sir Ram Kondeleji, if they had consulted you, they would have got all your amendments.
I know.
Did they consult you? They did not consult you.
I'm a small fry in this, but
no, sir, you're not a small fry. You have knowledge, you have experience. If they had consulted you, you would have given all these suggestions. Half of them are saying what farmers want today. It is not about egos. It is about the future of our children. It is about prosperity. It is about
certainly. See, absolutely. I think consultation
that's all I'm saying.
Has been a great way to take this forward. What we call as an inclusive approach, and things would have been better. We'll take a last question before we wind up. It's 1.5 hours past and we are enjoying. Shall we take Swati to talk? Swati Viswanathan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, introduce yourself and talk, Swati. Can you put a specific question?
Sir, I have just a small question, but I'm very grateful to attend this webinar with all those debates. I'm a student. I'm a second-year student, horticulture student. I attended this webinar just to clarify what's the real issue going on with Farm Bill. And thank you all. I got a clear idea about all these issues. My small question is that Mr. Ram, he said that we will arrange a regulatory agency. This amendment was let us arrange a central regulatory agency. Did he mean like ICAR body? Will that regulatory agency will work like that?
ICAR is not a regulator,
Yeah.
so I think what I meant was a regulator who will actually make sure that the market operates properly. It's like we also have many exchanges
Commissions,
now, like
commissions,
it's
regulatory
like a
commission.
regulatory commission, which will actually frame the rules and make sure that it is all run according to that. Keep an eye on malpractices and all those kinds of things. But there was a question that it should not be at central level, it should be at state level and all that. Someone asked a question, but I don't think so many states can have regulatory bodies. So it has to be a central regulatory body.
It can have judicial outreach, Mr. Kaundinya. It
Yeah.
can have judicial outreach in every district or region so that the conflicts can be resolved in a time-bound manner.
Yeah.
They are there in other institutions.
Sure.
Great. I think with that we have done. Let's be a large family and then see that how this farm laws we discuss further and then see what amendments are required, what changes are required. See, if the farmer benefits, India benefits, because India is an agrarian country at the end of the day. And farmer benefit, like if business has to thrive, it has to be successful. Whether it is a small roadside chai ka dukan or a huge corporate. Until bottom line is strong, it's going to drain. And bottom line for farmer is very, very important. What is very important is in a corporate, how we take employees to give a vision. Like I strongly believe in vision of the leader is a vision of the crowd. Suppose if the vision of the country's top government officials at the PMO level is to prosper the farmer, that vision has to percolate, imbibed, accept, and should be passionately practiced by all the farmers. I'm sure the day is not very far. I think today's discussion, I'm seeing all of us see a silver lining happening, because this dog jump cannot continue forever. I don't think there's any ego from anywhere. It's just that we need to sit across, talk. It's a small Vasudhaiva Kutumbam. Each one of us has to be part of that decision-making process. And with that, I think I thank Ajay ji, Ram sir, Chengareddy garu, Amit, all of you, to got your time. Each one of you had your own, of course, not schedules, but kind of hard-pressed things. And thanks. Of course, I'm kind of thanking from my behalf. I will do it kind of customary thing. I really enjoy, because that every Saturday at 4 o'clock I do Ray Talks, where we discuss a lot of ag value chain discussions. But today's discussion was very different. I really enjoyed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So all of the panelists, I definitely would admit that it was a great experience for all of us on the issue of Farm Bill reforms. I thank all the panelists on the behalf of Krishi Manthan IMA, as well as from all the attendees, for such an interesting discussion. We were fortunate to have right match of esteemed panelists with diverse. We are really grateful for all the time and effort that you all took to share your thoughts and experience on the critical issue. And so the aspects on the reform that you all have provided us, even in terms of the agitation of farmers, or in terms of the requirement of the reforms from the government point of view, I think we all should believe that we will get a benefit as a nation from the different suggestions that you all have provided to us. I express my appreciation to Mr. Agarwal for moderating the discussion by addressing all the pain points of the topic, as well as also taking the attendees' queries across and concluding the session for all of us. Last but not the least, I thank all the attendees as well for their important contribution to the discussion by being a patient listener. Thank you all the panelists again for your contribution.
My best wishes to all the students. Convey my best wishes to all the students.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Merry Christmas. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.